Perfect. Well, thank you all for joining us today. Thank you for Kim and Lewis Gale for agreeing to give us all the good information that we need. And we'd also like to thank Acer Tech for sponsoring this program. We appreciate all of you and all of your continued support of the Chamber and everything that you're doing to support our local community. Now, the past 8 weeks, and especially as we move forward in a safe and healthy manner. So I'm going to turn it over to you and tell us everything we need to know.
All right, so the big thing, was it the PPE piece that you guys had wanted the most information on, or was it just kind of some general guidelines overall? Because I can do a little bit of both if you want.
If we can do a little bit of both, that would be great.
Okay, perfect. Well, we'll start with PPE since I know that was one of the hot topics. So most of the non-medical facilities, the recommendation from the CDC as well as from the state of Virginia is to wear some type of face mask or covering. If you are a non-medical person, then the cloth face masks are fine. And I don't know if you guys can see, you know, we've had a bunch of these. They have tutorials on the CDC website on how to make them, even if you're not sure. I went on today and looked, and it literally is how to make them from t-shirts, all of that. The big thing that you want to make sure with any of the PPE that you have, so if you're in a non-medical environment, the face mask is to protect other people from you. So if I have an illness and I wear a face mask, then it keeps me from spreading germs to other people. This face mask is a little small for me, so I'm gonna go up a size. Plus it's probably a little hard to hear me with this. The big thing that you wanna make sure with any type of face mask is that it covers, it comes under your nose. Let me do this one, it's a little bit bigger. And if you need me to step closer to the camera, let me know, I can do that so you can see, because this is hard. So all of them will have a hard piece here at the nose. That part goes on your nose. So you want to make sure the loops go over your ears, both sides, and that the hard piece on your nose, that you pinch it so that it seals on your nose. What you don't want is a huge gap. You'll sometimes see people wear masks down like this, under their nose. That's not doing a whole lot of good. Or they do this, they'll pull them down under their chin, still not doing any good. So you want to make sure that it's sealed tight. Shouldn't be a lot of gaps here on the side. If there are a little bit, if there's a little bit of gap, that's okay, but you just don't want like huge gaps because otherwise things are going to come out. The other piece, and let me back up just a second, before you put any face shield on, what you want to do is wash your hands. So one of the things that we've learned about this virus is that it is spread through respiratory secretions. So anything, that's why they tell you to wear the face mask. We know that it can travel up to about 6 feet. So flu virus travels about 3 feet. So it's a lot smaller particle than the flu virus, which is why the 6 feet distance between people and the face mask. Anything that you have on your hands, so if I touched something that was contaminated and then I went to put my face mask on and I touched those mucous membranes, so your mouth, your nose, or your eyes, that's when you're more likely to contaminate yourself. So the big thing with PPE is always you want to make sure before you start that you wash your hands, or you can use hand sanitizer. Like I have some on my lanyard here that I keep with me all the time. So either one. If you're doing hand sanitizer, which I know is hard to come by right now unless you already have some, you want it to be at least 60% alcohol. That's what's going to kill those germs. The other big piece of hand washing and the gel, if you do have some and you're going to use that, is you want to make sure that you get that good friction and good rubbing. The gel, you want to do it until the gel is dry on your hands. It usually takes anywhere from 15 to 20 seconds, but getting down in between the webs of your fingers, getting your fingertips to make sure that you get all of your hands. If you're hand washing, then you want to make sure that you do it for at least 20 seconds. Sing the happy birthday song twice or do your ABCs twice. That will usually help to make sure. So then when you're putting your mask on, it said loops go over your ears, pinch the nose, and then once you have your mask on, you want to leave it. You don't want to touch the outside. If you do touch the outside, make sure that you are then hand washing as soon as you're done. Because otherwise, anything that you've gotten on the outside, you've now got on your hand. So if I touch this and then rub my eye, now all of a sudden I could have contaminated myself by putting something in my eye. Currently, the CDC is not recommending for non-healthcare people to do eye covering. So currently we have to wear goggles or a face shield. I did not see anything on the CDC website when I was trying to find information for businesses that said that you needed that. However, what they do recommend for your employees, and depending on what type of business you have, that you do try to have some kind of barrier or shield, if you can, between your customers and your employees, or your employees. You would like to have your employees about 6 feet apart, if at all possible. If not, I know I've seen it a couple of places. They have like one of those plastic shields between the cashier and the customer, and that's to help protect, to keep any kind of droplets from getting to the employee. Currently, gloves are not recommended for non-healthcare workers, depending on what you are doing. However, if you are cleaning, gloves are recommended just because those chemicals can be pretty harsh on your skin. And most of them, if you look in the small print, especially the Clorox wipes, things with bleach and that have a little more potency to them, can be really hard on your skin. You wear gloves. What you don't want to do is put gloves on at the beginning and then touch 100 things and then come back and touch your water bottle and not wash your hands. So everything that I've touched with my gloves on, whether it's handling money or putting stock on shelves, and then I grab my water bottle and I unscrew it with gloves that haven't been changed or washed, then I have the potential to contaminate myself. So gloves, if you do, you just wear them for the one thing that you're doing and then you want to take them off. If you have people that want to wear gloves, let's say they're taking money, you just want to make sure that if they do not touch their face. The area that they say is don't touch your T-zone. So that's anywhere from mouth, nose, and eyes, because that's where those mucous membranes are, and that's how you're going to contaminate yourself. So keep your hands away from your T-zone. I've actually heard people say the mask, even though it doesn't protect you from a lot of other things, it protects people from you, but it also keeps you from touching your face, because people don't realize how often they touch their face until they have on a mask, and then they're like, oh my God, I just touched my face 20 times and didn't even realize that I touched my face. I wear glasses, so it's really hard because you're always pushing your glasses up, and that's when you realize like, oh my gosh, I just touched my face 10 times trying to put my glasses back on. Gowns, you don't need to wear gowns or any kind of covering. The other time that I did see the CDC recommends that you wear gloves in the business setting is if you are cleaning up trash, or if like somebody has vomited, like any kind of bodily fluids that you would need to clean up. Even pre-COVID, that's probably a good idea to wear gloves when you're doing those. That's really the big piece for the PPE. If you happen to have the cloth mask, so if you have masks like these, I know you can order them on the internet, and I think they say non-medical grade. These are fine as well. They still have the loopholes. There are some, I don't know if they have them on the internet, where they tie, so that you tie them up on your head and around your neck. I don't like those as much as the loopholes, but our OR folks really like those. But these are fine as well. So either one, whatever you have is fine. I also think I have seen like the neck gaiters or the scarves that you can wear. Those are fine. The big piece is you want to make sure that your nose and mouth are both covered at all times. So any questions about face mask or PPE?
Sorry, I was muted. We have a question in the chat of if you can't find sanitizer, do you have suggestions or recipes to make a homemade version? And how do you gauge that % of alcohol I know you said when you're purchasing at least 60%. How do you do that when you're making it at home?
Yeah, I don't know, but I do think that like YouTube, I have seen some recipes. I have not made any. I know alcohol aloe, I think, was the other item that you can make it with. I think anything online that you find out, it's a lot harder to measure the alcohol content, and it might tell you like on the recipe, if you use this much alcohol and this much aloe, this is what percentage it should be. Yeah, it might do that, but I don't have a recipe. I'm knock on wood, I have not had to make any yet, which is good. I mean, I'm happy for it. The big thing too is if you can't get hand sanitizer, hand washing is still the better option. I do know that sometimes you cannot always wash your hands, so that's when we want the hand sanitizer. So if you're running low on hand sanitizer, really try to prioritize, okay, the folks over here have the ability to wash their hands regularly. Somebody at the cashier or maybe at the front or some that does not have time to get like wash their hands in between each like money transaction or each customer, then the hand sanitizer might be the better option for them.
Thank you. We also know from a program earlier today that if you are looking for hand sanitizer, 11 West currently has some that they have a supplier that as of right now still has some. So go ahead, reach out to John there if you're looking for that. We have another question. What about hotel employees and guests during this time? What kind of PPE do they need to have?
Yeah. So employees, same thing. You will definitely want some type of mask, whether it be a cloth mask or if you have access to the more the store-bought or the produced mask, either one are fine. As far as hotel employees, same thing. If you are working at the desk and checking people in, strongly recommend if you can to sanitize your hands in between each person that you check in. So if you're checking somebody in and you take their credit card and you give it back to them, as soon as you're done with that person, you want to make sure that you either wash or gel your hands. Anything that you're going to be touching, if you have which I know buffets are gone and the continental breakfasts are probably, those days are gone, but if there's a kitchen area, you want to make sure that you are wiping down the high touch surface areas frequently. And that really goes for any place. So at minimum, you want somebody once a day doing sanitizing of high touch surface areas. And really that can be Clorox wipes that you go down and you want to do doorknobs. You want to do light switches. You want to do countertops if people are standing and putting their hands on the counters. At minimum, you want to do it once a day. If you can do it more than that, then that's great, because those are the areas that we tend to get bacteria. And then if you open the door and then you scratch your nose, and you could have just contaminated yourself. So wiping things down, if you have gloves, that's probably helpful to wear gloves during that. And that will go for hotels as well as, just any business. Wearing the mask is the other thing. And then really trying very hard to keep yourself 6 feet away from people, as well as trying to keep your customer 6 feet away. So I know a lot of businesses have gone to putting tape on the floor or stickers that say, stand here. And they've tried to put them, 4 to 6 feet apart, depending on your space. So that people don't stand right on top of each other if they're in line to check out from somewhere. Same thing, you want to try and keep them as far away from your employees as you can. If you're able to, moving your credit cards, the thing that you insert your credit card in when you pay, trying to move that from your employees so that the customer does not have to get too close to your employee when they're paying or checking out. And strongly encourage the hand gel right there. Anybody that's going to be handling credit cards or money, anything that somebody's going to be handing back and forth to you, trying to hand gel in between each person, just so that decreases the chance that they're going to contaminate themselves or the next person in line.
Awesome, thank you. Those are all the questions that we have so far.
Okay. Well, good. Well, just a couple other things, and you might already know this, and I am happy to send any material that I have. There is lots and lots and lots of information on the CDC's website about businesses. Like, you know, one is, and I printed this off today, the top 10 tips to protect employees' health. Couple of the big things, and you guys might have already gone over this earlier, and I know you have a ton of stuff on your website, but you know, really, really strongly encouraging employees, if you are sick, do not come to work. Lots of places have set up so that they're doing like a symptom checking as employees come in. Sometimes it is a self-monitoring. How are you feeling today? Did you check your temperature at home? Doesn't mean you have to check temperatures at the door, because I know that takes a lot of manpower. And if you do that, that adds a different level of, you need to clean the thermometer in between each person that you check. If you're wearing gloves, and you need to change your gloves. If you do check temperatures, and you need to make sure that you're hand hygiening in between each employee. Some places are having employees to check their temperature prior to coming in. And then just self-reporting, yes, my temperature was below 100.4. Yes, I have no cough, no fever. I feel fine, and I'm healthy. If they are sick, telling them to go home and not to come to work. Sometimes, and what we found, you know, lots of illnesses, COVID is one, the flu is another one, that you might feel okay in the morning, and then by lunchtime you really are feeling bad. So sometimes if your employees come to work and become sick while they are at work, you know, the question becomes, oh my gosh, what do we do now as far as cleaning this area? What you would like to do is, if you can, leave their area alone for about 24 hours if at all possible, and the next day come in and clean. So wipe everything down well, make sure that you're wearing gloves. That just gives all that little bacteria time to move on if they can. If you have windows and you're able to open the door, open those up so that you get good circulation, and it helps keep things from just sitting on desktops, on computer keyboards, on phones, those areas. If you do have an employee that becomes sick and you need to notify other employees that they could have been exposed to somebody that has tested positive for COVID, what they need to do, and usually the health department will also get involved in this, but they need to quarantine at home for 14 days from their last exposure to the employee that was sick. So if I became sick on Monday and my last day at work was Friday, anybody that was exposed to me on Friday for 14 days from that Friday, because what we found is that COVID has an incubation period of about 2 to 14 days. That if I'm going to get sick, that's the time that I'm going to get sick. Typically, people seem to be getting sick about day 4 or 5, but it can be up to 14 days prior to. If you have an employee that is sick, that has COVID, they have tested positive before they come back to work. The recommendation of the CDC is, if they did not get tested, that they have to be fever-free for 3 days without any medication like Tylenol or ibuprofen. That they need to be pretty much symptom-free, so they might have a little bit of a cough left, but not a constant cough, and that it's at minimum 10 days from the onset of their symptoms. If they got tested and they had a positive COVID test, the recommendation is that they get 2 negative tests before they come back to work 24 hours apart. And all of that information is on the CDC website as well.
Well, thank you for all of that. I believe we have some of the CDC pamphlets up on the chamber page. If not, I'll get with Leo about making sure that those are easily accessible. But the CDC website is pretty user-friendly from my perspective, at least.
Yes, they have a plethora of information. I mean, it's almost overwhelming. It's so much information.
Are there any other questions? Questions, comments, concerns, things that we should be aware of?
No, I think the other thing is, hopefully most people, as they're out and about, will be wearing face coverings. So hopefully customers will as well. And once people understand that it really is protecting others from me, it does protect you some, but it really is helping protect others from me in case I am sick, because if people that have COVID can be contagious up to 2 days prior to being symptomatic. So that's where that kind of gray period is. So, and one of the reasons that it spreads, because most of the time once people become sick, they stay home and they isolate and they do a pretty good job. Where we find that it gets spread a lot of times is in that 2 days before they even realize that they are sick and that they're contagious, which is why it's important that we wear that face covering. The other thing is, if you do have a face covering, before you remove it, you want to make sure that you wash your hands before you take it off. So anytime you're going to touch your face or anywhere near your face, you want to make sure you wash your hands. So if I have a face covering on, I want to wash my hands or gel. Then you want to remove it, pull from the ears. So you want to pull the ear loops. What you want to make sure that you don't do is touch the front of it. And I know I talked a little bit about that before, because anything that's on the front, if you touch it, you're going to get that on your hands. And then you just have the potential to contaminate yourself. And then as soon as you remove it, you want to make sure that you wash your hands again. So good hand hygiene, whether it's hand washing or the gel. What you want to make sure too is that if I take off my mask, any type, that I don't just lay it wherever. You know, I want to put it on your keyboard or on your partner's keyboard, or, you know, somewhere that anything that was on this is going to potentially contaminate them. One thing you can do is put them in paper bags. Those are breathable. It doesn't cause them to sweat and other bacteria, for it to get really hot and other bacteria to build up and get on your mask. If it's a cloth mask, the recommendation is to wash them in the washing machine regularly. So if you have worn it all day at work, even for a couple of hours where you've had lots of interaction with people, I would take it home and I would put it in the washing machine. The washing machine does kill COVID and most viruses and bacteria. What you don't want to do is shake it out, and that goes like for your clothing as well, because if there is COVID on it and I'm shaking it, I have now sent all those little particles through the air and potentially could contaminate other people that you live with or in your house, or recontaminate yourself. So washing it regularly. If you have these are disposable. You just throw them away after you use them. They can go in regular trash. They do not need special trash when you're disposing of them. But you just want to make sure that you're not touching it and then touching yourself. So always do good hand hygiene before and after when you're taking your mask on and off.
Awesome, thank you. Can you run through really quickly just how to take off gloves without getting all the junk that's on your gloves on your hands?
Sure, and I do not have a pair of gloves with me. But if you have on gloves, what you want to do is get on the inside. So the first one that I'm going to take off, you can pull it off. What you don't want to do is pull it and sling it. The second one, you can come up underneath your hand. And if you can, I don't even think we have gloves down here in the admin office. If you can turn them inside out, so when I peel it off, I'm getting the outside part will be on the inside. Does that make sense? So that what you don't want to do is touch the outside if you can, because that's the dirty part. If you always kind of stop and think, and when you remove PPE, it should never be a super fast, like, oh, let me sling this off really quick. Kind of stop and think, okay, what's dirty and what's clean? And that just helps you think, okay, I don't want to touch dirty to clean. And that will help make sure that you don't contaminate yourself. Like, you shouldn't have gloves on and then take your face mask off, because then you have the potential for whatever's on your gloves to contaminate your face. So getting on the inside of your gloves and trying to peel them off so that when you're done, the inside is on the outside, if that makes sense. So you're kind of peeling them off. That helps keep you from contaminating your hands. And then as soon as you remove your gloves, you want to make sure that you're washing your hands or gelling with the alcohol gel.
Fabulous, thank you. Are there any other questions? got the expert here. So now's the time to ask him. Well, it doesn't seem like it, but thank you so much for your time and for explaining all of this. And like Kim said, the CDC website has a ton of great resources. So if you have questions, check that out.
And I think if you have my contact information, you are welcome to email me or call me anytime if you have questions, because probably as soon as we're done or once you kind of get things going again, things will come up. You are welcome to call me or reach out. I'm happy to try and answer any questions that you have.
Well, thank you for that. Well, if you have those questions, reach out to us. We'll be happy to share your contact information. But thank you again to Acer Tech for sponsoring this program, and we'll have this up hopefully on the Facebook page and on our website. So if you need a reference back, that'll be available. But thank you so much and have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.